Hello, hello everybody. It's Kelli Folsom here, and I'm so excited that you decided to join me in this 5-day still life painting challenge. Of course, my goal during this challenge is to help to reveal to you the secret language of painting and to show you that it doesn't have to be so difficult. And of course, I'm also hoping that with these challenges and exercises that it will help build your confidence in painting so that you can achieve your dreams when it comes to creating beautiful, masterful art. So before today, I'm actually going to show you the absolute magic of painting a single grape. Before we get into that, and I'm going to do it in hopefully 5 minutes for you, show you step by step, 5 minutes. Before we do that, I just want to show you the materials we're working with here. They are very simple. I have 2 paint brushes. I like hog hair filbert. These are silver Grand Prix. This is a size 4 and this is a size 1. I also have a pointed palette knife as well, which I may or may not use. I don't actually use palette knife for mixing, but rather for applying paint. Okay, we've got a gesso board panel. Okay, you can get these from all different kinds of companies, but what it is essentially is just a simple wood panel that's been gessoed. This is an ampersand museum series gesso board, and I'm actually going to tone this. That is one step that we're going to do together before we get to painting the grape. Super exciting and super simple. Our colors today are incredibly simple. We have white. You can use pretty much any white you want to. I'm using Cremnitz white. That's my favorite. We have yellow ochre that we'll be using today. We have cadmium red light, and we have alizarin crimson, and we have burnt umber, which I'm going to tone with, raw umber, and ivory black. And that's it, you guys. That's all the paint we're going to use today. I will also be using a speed drying medium. My favorite is the Old Masters Merge, if you can see that, hopefully. So this is my favorite. It speeds the drying of the painting up so that we can do these wet into wet alla prima techniques so much easier and get a more refined and finished look in a wet and wet painting. So if you don't have this, which most people, unless you ordered ahead of time, will not have this, you can just use a typical medium, or if you have Liquin Light Gel or Gamblin's Neo Megulp, Galkid even, these more Gamblin solvent-free gel as well. So these are all speed drying mediums that you can use as substitutes, or any of the Liquin products essentially, that you can use as substitutes for this. So you can refer back to the materials list that I gave you to if you have any questions on that. So I'm just going to tone this using my medium and my brush with the burnt umber. And then after I do this, I am going to zoom in on the painting before we get to painting the grape. But just want to get this covered lightly with a tone because we're going to be using this same panel, or you can use other panels, but I'm going to be using this same panel throughout the week for these exercises that we're doing. So give me just a moment here, bear with me, and we will get this covered here. And I just like to put it on with a brush with a lot of medium. This is nice because it kind of seals up the surface. these ampersand gesso boards, since they're acrylic primed, they are a little bit absorbent. So the medium and the burnt umber does a couple of things. It seals up the surface. It also kills the white of the panel or canvas that you're working on. So you could work on canvas paper, canvas pad, stretch canvas if you want to, anything that you have. You could even work on brown paper now or paint on paper. If you're painting on paper, I'm going to recommend that you don't do this part. Just because it would be kind of unnecessary. But I mean, you can essentially paint on anything. However, you know, painting on paper is probably the least desirable. But the point being, I don't want you to stop short because you don't have something or you think you don't have the right supplies. So I want everybody to do with what they have. If you just got in here and you haven't had time to order supplies beforehand or you don't have something, don't hesitate. Do with what you have. And if you have a question about a substitute, post here in the group. So then I just like to take a Viva paper towel. That's my other material here, and just kind of wipe this down. I don't want it to be too dark because I'm going to work on this later on in the week. Okay, so that is going to be that. Let's see here. And then the last prep thing I just want to do for myself, and you may not need to do this if you're going to work on separate surfaces, but I'm just going to divide this in half vertically. I'm basically going to turn it into 4 quadrants, okay? So just estimating half and half, because this is just going to be a quick study. This is not a finished painting. And I find that doing quick studies takes away some of the stigma of doing, you know, a fancy finished painting. Okay, so now we are ready to go. Keep in mind this will be posted after the video is complete, so you can re-watch it and go through the steps or take notes, you know, step by step after this is posted. So don't worry about trying to keep up or doing everything with me right now at this stage. So, all right, now we're ready to begin. Okay, so let me get zoomed in here to where you can see both the canvas or the panel and the mixing area. And actually, you know, I think I'm going to do this way so that we can see a little bit more of this. All right. This is a Edge Pro easel, by the way. A really great little small travel easel, and is magnetic, which is nice. Okay. All right, now we're going to get started on this grape, and my goal is to show you how to paint this grape in 5 minutes or under. Can she do it, folks? We shall see. Just a little side note, if you have a medium, make sure that you keep it on the dark side of your palette. Keep your palette open so your colors don't get dirty, and keep it away from your white, because if I do use that medium, it's going to mostly be in the dark colors. Okay, so the magic of a single grape. All right, so we're just going to start with, this is a dark red grape, and you have your reference image that you can work from. So we're going to start with Ivory black, since it's darker, and it's kind of a deep sort of Merlot red, right? If we think about what these red grapes end up being. So we're going to add some alizarin crimson, and we're going to add a little tiny pinch of cab red light, but it's mostly going to be black and alizarin crimson. And then I am just going to block in. I'm not even going to necessarily start with a drawing. I rarely start with a full-on drawing. And I do want this color to cover the surface, so I'm not using a lot of medium. All of these colors, the black, the alizarin crimson, is very transparent. And I'm going to kind of make this a little bit bigger here. You can see how when I put less paint down, it looks more transparent. So the trick about grapes, we want to start with one base color. Simple and easy. And we want to get enough coverage down. It's also darker. Grapes are darker on the lit side. So my light is coming from the top left here. And why is that? Why are grapes darker on the lit side? Well, it's because the grape is translucent. So the light actually passes through and shows up more as a glow on the back side. So that makes the back side lighter in value. So let me just fully sort of close this shape in, curving my brush to get a little harder edge over here. So that's it. Black, alizarin crimson, little tiny touch of cadmium red light. Now, to get the glow, I'm just going to add a little bit more of the cadmium red light in there. And it shows up on a little bit of alizarin, on the back side, the side that's opposite the light source, which is on the left, as you can see from the reference. And so I just want to gently kind of put in some glow here, and then just kind of soften my bristles a bit to just, or you can take and drag some of this color wet into wet that we just put down to soften that transition so that it's a pretty seamless transition, and we kind of want the most amount of glow right here. But that's all one color, and that's the beauty of painting alla prima wet into wet. I put in one color, but then by mixing and layering colors, you get the effect that you've actually put in different values and different colors. The other thing, step 3, is getting a really strong highlight. Especially with dark grapes, you're going to have a very strong highlight. So I actually just use the back end of my brush and put a little tip of white on here, and then just apply it with the back end of my brush. Or you could use a palette knife if you want, but this works, you know, it's super easy. I don't have to switch tools. The last thing, if you want to, and this is totally optional, because even though it's there, it doesn't mean that we always have to paint it on every single grape, and that is some of that like dusting stuff, which is actually a yeast on the grape, but it's kind of a cool color. So you could just do ivory black and white, or you could take that original grape color we started with, which is going to be more of a purple, and add in some white there. You see what a beautiful sort of lavender color you get. And I just like to mix with my brush, so I just very, very gently side to side, you know, of the brush, kind of mix with the bristles. Now, if you want to, you can add a little bit of this. It's a very soft, gentle touch. And again, this is not even a requirement, because as you saw, it looks like a grape with or without it. Now, sometimes when you add this afterwards, it kind of weakens your highlight a bit. So you need to come back and get your highlight. Voila! And there we have, voila, a grape. So super simple and easy. So if you wanted to, you could just leave the tone of this in the background, you know, that's what I would recommend. Or if you want to take this further, you could also paint in some of the tabletop color or some background color if you want to. But I think I'm going to leave mine just like that. So let me kind of zoom in so that you can see the grape a little bit more and then the palette a little bit more as well. Okay, so here is our grape. Ta-da! And then here is our palette. You can see how few of paint piles I actually have there. So that's another thing I often do. If the whole object is almost totally dark, I'll just mix colors into the original batch.